You have a bike and now everyone is telling you to get a power meter. Maybe you're a beginner cyclist and you're really dialing in, delving deep into cycling, or maybe you are a more seasoned cyclist who's been enjoying commutes or mountain bike rides or something, not really worrying about the training aspect, but now you want to dial in a little bit deeper. And so if you've been considering getting a power meter, but you don't know if you should get one, what are the benefits, why not get one? In today's video, we are going to talk about an intro to power. What is power? What does it measure? And why it may or may not benefit you at your journey, wherever you are. My name is Ely. I'm a strength coach for cyclists. Let's dive in. If you're wondering why I'm all dressed up in my jersey and in my bibs, I literally just got ready for a ride. It is 6 in the morning. It's cold outside. It's, I think, -1 or -2 degrees Celsius. It's cold outside. This is the one day that the roads are dry. And I was like, I just got ready for the ride. And then I looked at my bike. My Garmin's dead. My light is dead. And my Di2 battery is dead. So now just gonna give everything at least half an hour charge, and then I'll get back out there because it's cold, so the batteries are going to die quicker too. Anyways, what is a Di2? What is battery? That's a good question. Let's talk about power. Power is measured as force times velocity. And so force is literally the torque you are putting in through the pedals on the downstroke, on the upstroke. You're moving and putting force through the pedals in order to turn them. And velocity is obviously the speed, and that's measured in revolutions per minute, or RPM. And that kind of gives you an idea of what exactly it measures. It measures two things: your force, your velocity, and then it puts that number together to give you power. Now on the bike, we typically express power in a few ways. Number one is your 3-second power. This gives you an average of the last 3 seconds and continually updates every second to show you kind of what you're averaging and how hard you're pushing. And so one of the greatest benefits about power is it tells you how hard you are pushing or how easy you're going. Now, power does not replace RPE, or your rate of perceived exertion. And it also should not replace self-awareness. You need to become self-aware of how hard you're pushing and stay within your limits or push past your limits depending on your training. Now, do you need a power meter? I'm gonna say no, depending on where you are in your journey. If you are just a little bit more casual, you don't really care for the whole training thing, you just wanna go ride your bike, have fun, then no, you don't need a power meter. And even if you are training, it is possible to train with RPE, rate of perceived exertion, because your body, your mind, your central nervous system, kinesthetic awareness, all of these things are very in tune if you can develop them. And so if you ask yourself a question like, how hard am I pushing on a scale of 1 to 10, and you're aiming for an 8, you will sit in the same zone as if you were an 8 out of 10 looking at the power meter in your lactate threshold, for example. But what the power meter actually does give you is the numbers, akin to going to the gym and knowing you can squat 200 pounds versus knowing that, oh, this weight's an 8 out of 10 for how hard it is. And depending on what kind of rider you are, or just what kind of person you are overall, if you're very analytical, then the numbers mean a lot to you, then it could be a worthwhile investment. And the other thing that can be very beneficial about a power meter is it allows you to track your progress over time. If you just are on RPE for the rest of your life, how hard am I working scale of 1 to 10? 8 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 last year is not going to be the same as a 10 out of 10 this year, is not going to be the same as a 10 out of 10 next year. Ideally, if you're training well and training purposefully, you are improving, and the improvements ought to be reflected in the power. But if you're just asking yourself, then you don't actually get to see that data, that linear increase. Let's drink some coffee. I know this is a girly cup, but we don't really have many mugs in this house. Daughters fill our lives with love and laughter. I will know very soon enough. All right, what are we talking about here? We've discussed what power is, force times velocity. What are the potential downsides of it is it's expensive, depending on the power meter you get. A solid power meter can cost anywhere from a few $100s to a few $1,000s. Now, they used to be much, much more expensive back in the day. They're still a little bit on the pricier side, so it's an investment. If your bike's only a few $100s, getting a power meter that's also a few $100s may seem like a, why am I doing this? And there are also different types of power meters, but we won't go into that today. So again, one of the benefits is tracking, and also one of the other benefits is if you are training for something, you can then create training zones. And we'll discuss this in a future video. If you ended up buying a power meter, then I'll discuss a little bit more about training zones and FTP and how to set those up. But allowing you to create training zones can really dial in your training. So you know, I want to train my endurance, I want to train my high intensity efforts, I want to train my 1 minute power, my sprints. All of these things, now you can literally track and train them within the right zones. You can also train your cadence. And so maybe, for example, you never knew that you're a rider who sits in a low cadence because you never actually saw that number, that revs per minute. But you've been noticing some knee pain or some joint pain, and it could be linked to a cadence issue. Maybe you're putting a lot of torque in through the knees and moving the pedals very slowly. And so by becoming aware of that, because of your power meter, you can then shift your cadence up and bam, your pain is gone. So just helping you put numbers to the efforts that you're doing. And those numbers allow you to do a few things. They allow you to pace yourself. So rather than just relying on your mind, you can literally look at the numbers and be like, oh, I know I'm not going to be able to maintain this for a long time if I continue down this road. And so it allows you to pace yourself and pace your efforts, especially if you're in races or on group rides. The second thing is it allows you to analyze your strengths and your weaknesses. You know that you are a stronger aerobic rider, and so you're able to last for hours and hours at a time, whereas other riders may be more anaerobic and are able to do these short, punchy, explosive sprints, but then are not able to hold them. And so by analyzing your strength and your weaknesses, you are able to train those things. It also can be very motivating to see that continual improvement and see the numbers going up over time. That motivation can be huge in and of itself. And then finally, probably the biggest benefit to training with power is if you are planning on performing at any level and you want to train to perform well in races or events, training with power is going to be an amazing tool to help you reach peak performance. Now, I want to stress the word tool. 40, 50 years ago in Tour de France, they weren't using power meters and they still hit amazing performances. But this is a tool that has now been made readily accessible to all of us to use. And it is a tool that can help you dial in your efforts and achieve peak performance. So if that is you, I would recommend maybe opting in for a power meter. All right, we kept this short, we kept this sweet. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below, and keep your eyes tuned for future videos where we'll discuss a little bit more about, okay, you got a power meter, now what? Hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you next time on a future video.